Kenny B asks, you wrote in Songs and Words about how the Howland Willie Cunt project came together. I'll admit for my sins, I think it's both a terrific country album and genuinely hilarious. Talk about the Geordie sense of humour, not giving a fuck if anyone else likes it. Howland Willie Cunt is full of Geordie humour. Not many people get it, I understand, but that's funny. Where I come from. Like you said in the book, the laughter stopped when it came to, oh God, Hand of a Child. I've always wondered, why did you stop there? Was it a case of thinking, we've already written and recorded so many upsetting songs, we can't go back from this one now? We were working on an album that was all based on bad taste. Now, when you're in that kind of microscopic universe where, I mean, you know the story about the Howland Willie album by now, we were just trying to hide the lyrics from people, because once people in the country community heard what we were writing about, they were just like, nah, we ain't going to be involved in that. We were so immersed in that universe that we didn't realise how far we were taking it. And there's a lot of horror movies like that. One of them being Mutilator, where it was a splatter movie, but there was this one scene with a fishing gaff, huge big fishing hook, that went beyond what they were doing. And it's a legendary film because of that. But no one goes, oh, that's a great bit. I enjoy that scene. It's fucking horrible. It's really horrible. And Hand of a Child was that. We were just in this fucking world, and we just went that far. Well, if you're going to bother doing it, you might as well bother doing it. And yeah, it's one of those songs. Jace Edwards couldn't listen to that song, and I was kind of like, it's a nice tune, it's good, but no, it went way too far. And you know, it was hard to go way too far in an album like that. But I was channeling Howland Willie Cunt, and what would he give a shit about? And the funny thing was, there's a song on Going Home to Satan where it says we're skinning lawmen and something, whatever, but it was we're skinning children. And I changed the words because I thought, oh, that's a little bit rough. And I forgot that we wrote this whole fucking song. Be careful where you go walking, because you're there, you know? And we were walking in some really dodgy territory that at one point got so intensely ridiculous and funny that we didn't know until we walked away that we were walking in some very, very dodgy territory. It's it's a good, anyway, we'll go on to the next question with relish. Emma A asks, hey Ginger, hey Emma, I remember that yourself and Ray used to live together. What is your favourite memory from that time? There's loads. Me and Ray used to like to get fucked up, and there was so many great times. We used to get up and invariably Jack and Coke for breakfast every day, and then that would go on until we'd go to a gig in Camden, and then have people back. It was full on all the time, at a time where you could bounce back the next day because you're made of magic and rubber. Some of the fucking mad things that we did, we just taking acid and designing the cover of a Caffeine Bomb, cutting all my dreadlocks off on acid because we thought it was a really good idea until the morning where you're fucking done. Loads of great things. There was one where I had a rat called Felix the rat. I used to have a big long great coat, and he used to live in the pocket whenever we used to go out. So we used to go drinking, and Felix would be on the table running around. But he's really tame and really well trained. And we used to always go and buy Sunday dinner. Big thing that we had Sunday dinner, and we were sitting there one time, and we're having steak. Ray hasn't, probably pissed. And he's went, why have you cooked yourself a steak and not me? I'm like, well, I wouldn't do that. What are you talking about? I looked at his plate and there was no steak there. What the fuck's going on? And then we looked, and the rat had the steak. The steak's about 3 times bigger than the rat. And he just thinks he's going to get away with taking this steak off Ray's plate and trying to jump across the floor with this fucking thing, like pulling a car, and get it into his fucking cage. It's those things way back in his cage. And that was one of my favourite things. But Felix went missing. He got through a hole under the kitchen, under the sink, and he got out. Well, he's not a wild rat. He's a domesticated rat. And as soon as he gets outside, I'm figuring he's fucked. The first cat he meets for a start is his dinner. And he was gone for about 3 days. And after 3 days, when your rat goes missing, you're like, it's not looking good. He used to go out, search for him all the time, and I feel I'm getting over the shock that he's not coming back, and starting to live with the mourning process, because I loved Felix. And about 3 or 4 days in, again, we're fucked up or on acid or something, and I feel this scratching on my chest. And he'd found his way back in the house. He got back, he crawled right up the stairs. Poor thing probably hadn't eaten since he got out. Got in the bed, crawled under the covers, and he went to sleep on my chest. And he'd never done that before. And I figured that was because he was so glad to be home. He just wanted to be close to me. And what a beautiful memory. And I remember me and Ray were just over the moon, just like a miracle had just happened. And Felix went to live a long and happy life and died on the chest of someone. It wasn't me. He was being looked after a bunch of nurses, and the nurse with the biggest cleavage, and this was a very big cleavage, Felix went to rest his last moments between her boobs and died there. And so he was a very, very happy rat. He cheated death and he died between a pair of tits. Everybody wants that life, let's face it. Yeah, but loads of great times with ASL. He was a fantastic flatmate, and that was around the time where we were living together when we did Earth Versus. So I was bringing all the demos back from Earth Versus, and just great times. Things just happening. You're young. Life is a mystery crossed with a theme park. Yeah, good times. James D. writes, what brought Devin Townsend to be in the Wild Hearts? And if he had stayed a permanent member of the band, would it have took the band in a different direction? Yes, it would have took a band in a direction where he would have been co-writing a lot of the stuff. And I loved Devin being in the band, but we kind of knew from the start that he wasn't going to last because he had his own thing going. Because we met Devin when we were playing with Steve Vai. We toured with Steve Vai. I can't imagine a worse bill. But we toured with Steve Vai, fucking Freudian slip. I don't mind Steve Vai, I'm not into what he does, but, seemed like a really nice guy. And Devin hated being on that tour as much as we did. And he was doing it for contractual reasons. And he sang on this album so he could get his own solo stuff out. So he was doing that as part of a process. And we met him, and we obviously met through a meeting of minds, our mindset being we didn't want to be there. And so we got on great with him. He had the same sense of humour and the same kind of, aversion to all of this fucking histrionics. And it's not my thing, and it wasn't his thing. But he used to royally take the piss. And one day we went on stage, and he would not only try and jeopardise the Steve Vai case, but he also tried to jeopardise ours every single night. It was brilliant. And he came on this one time. This is going to disgust a few people. You probably want to stop right there if you're eating. But he came on this one time dressed in a potato sack, naked under a potato sack with a drumstick up his arse. And he walked on the stage and he pulled a drumstick off his arse and he wiped it on my T-shirt. And on my T-shirt, he'd left a piece of potato. And this is before LED lights. There were park hand lights. Park hand lights heat up. So I was getting all the way through our set. It was cooking. The shit and the potato was cooking, and the smell. I think when I think of Devin Townsend, I'm still reminded of the smell of the shit potato interface with the hot lights, and it still makes me smile. Again, Geordie humour. I find that hilarious. A lot of people probably would find it offensive, but not me and not Devin. But if he'd stayed in the band, it would have definitely changed things. We would have sounded like Devin, but it definitely would have concentrated on going heavier, and probably detuned. And I don't think it would have really particularly worked, but I wouldn't have known because it would have just been the way that things went. But yeah, definitely one of my favourite times having Devin in the band. And basically, he joined the band because, we didn't have a guitar player. And we said, Devin, would you come and stand in? He was like, yeah. And we always knew it was a summer job, but we had festivals and gigs to do. And we had the tour with Suicidal Tendencies, which we were going to do as a 3-piece. But Devin said, no, I'll come on board and do that. And it was just a fucking absolute howl. What a fucking wonderful person to be in a band with. But yeah, that's why. He was a friend of ours and he agreed to come and play with us for a laugh. And fuck me, was it a laugh. Gaz says, do you think we will ever get to hear any of the songs live from It Came From the North and Bebop Narrative? Also, would it be possible to make the lyrics for Bebop Narrative available? Yes, I don't know. Maybe. The lyrics, I don't know. We should do. But although a lot of the times I like when bands don't let me know the lyrics. So I'm thinking I'm singing my own lyrics. And 10, 20 years down the line, you realise what the lyrics are and you've been singing the wrong lyrics. And you prefer your own lyrics because they're more pertinent to you. So I don't know. Don't know about releasing the lyrics to that one, not because I give a shit about anyone knowing the lyrics, but because it's sometimes more fun you thinking up them yourself. Will we hear any of the songs live? I hope so. Like I said a few times, I'd like to have a solo gig where we just do 3 hours of the solo material. That would be promoting It Came From the North if it did have a commercial release. So we'd definitely be playing live songs from that. I'd like to do something like Hieronymus Bosch live, because it just would be so hard. It's so fucking hard to play that song live, but you know, there's no real simple songs on that album, so they would all be a great challenge. But yeah, I would like to do some of the songs live because they're great songs. Not a big fan of some of the lyrics, to be honest. I think the lyrics are a little bit mean-spirited and, just judgmental. Not the sort of thing that I would write now. But again, like we said before, the benefit of looking back on life, hopefully, is how far you've come. A cat with 2 T's. What's this about? A comment I read on Mick Wall's Twitter where he said a collaboration with you is on the cards. Tell us more. Me and Mick, I've made no secret. Mick is my favourite rock writer of all time, probably. I think he's up there with the Lester Bangs of the world. I absolutely adore his style, and I read his books on bands I've got no interest in, but it's him writing them. I think he's such an expressive, unique, and fucking funny writer. And if anyone was going to write my story, it needs to be someone funny, because it's a very dark story. So something happened. Someone mentioned something on some podcast or whatever. So why don't you write a book with Ginger about, self-improvement or rules of life? And I said, oh, that sounds like a good laugh. We've talked a lot about writing a book together, but I've always been saying, well, I'm still working on the 3rd act. I think a book needs a good ending. Thinking about it, I'm not sure my book needs an ending. It's so fucking weird. Such a strange story. And like I say, if someone was going to write that story, they'd have to enter it with a sense of humour. Because if you get someone who's too dark, I don't think it would be readable. There's a lot of fucking horrible, horrible things have happened to me in life. Horrible compared to anything that you've read. So I think Mick would be perfect. But the more that we start talking about, let's get together and write this little fluff book about, funny stories on the road and what have you. It starts me thinking about, I'm probably at the time now in my life where I can tell my story. And Mick, I don't know if you know, has just had a stent put in his heart, so dodged a bullet there. So I think it would be a good time for him to really get stuck into a book that was about being thankful for your life. Being thankful for your health, being thankful that you just got through these fucking crazy, crazy scenes in your life. And he's been through a lot as well. If you'd read any of Mick Wall's personal books, he's seen and done a lot of stuff. So he's not going to enter this and be easily shocked. I do know that he's going to be shocked, but he's not going to be shocked to the point where he's going to be scared off by any of the scenarios. And also, it's something that I think we share, this gratitude for our health, which we both agree has never been a priority in the rest of our lives. So I think we'd be meeting at a beautiful time to work together. He needs something to really get his teeth into as well, because when you get over anything like that, I've known a few people that have got over, a life-threatening situation like that. Best thing to do is get busy. Get fucking busy. Appreciate your health and fucking use it. So yeah, it's a good time for both of us to do that. So expect a book. God knows when it's going to be, but expect a book that's going to be. It's going to be a read, all right. Fucking hell, my life's been such a trip, and especially my young life before anyone heard of me. The stuff that I went through. Fuck me, it's going to be a tough read, but it's got a happy ending. I don't die. Neither does he. Good. JJH, as in G-A-Y. JJH, tell us your memories from the first, what you would consider big Wild Hearts gig. Fucking hell, first big Wild Hearts gig? And I thought the first big Wild Hearts gig was when we fucking played a pub and the next, what was the one in Camden, next to the Town and Country? Oh, the Frog and Fetus or something. But we played a gig there and there was hardly anyone there. We played a second gig there and it was full. That was my first big gig. So I don't know what people call a big gig. I guess our first big gig was festivals, Download maybe, or when we started headlining and we'd played, but again, playing big gigs, we supported Love Hate and stuff like that, so we're playing big gigs then. But then going back and headlining and playing the same places, that seemed like a big gig. But there was so much going on. I think it was just I was too out of it to really appreciate it. I don't know what the first big gig was. I mean, supporting AC/DC. I remember supporting AC/DC at a gig in Spain, and I think it was a bull ring, but it was so big and there were so many people there, you couldn't see the back. You couldn't see the back row. And that was just such an out-of-body experience. It was a really good bill as well, because Sepultura were on the bill back when Max was in them. And AC/DC were just phenomenal. Both of whom had played huge places. We'd never played anywhere that big. And it just felt like you were so far away from the audience, from what they were getting, that there was it was like playing to a big picture of an audience. It didn't even seem like there was any feedback, because you were so far. They could have been loving it, but they were so far back you could barely hear them cheering. When I think of big gigs, that was the one that gets me. We played a lot of festivals and to a lot of crowds, but that one was where you went, this is bigger than a big crowd. This is everyone in the world. And it doesn't matter what I do, good or bad, they're here to see AC/DC. And that was a fucking really, an out-of-body experience. It was so fucking surreal. But I don't know, big gigs, depends what, big is in your mind. But I remember, playing that pub and it was sold out. Our first sold-out gig, that was pretty fucking big to me. So yeah, don't know what a big gig is. Toshi. Oh, I hope it's a real Toshi. I haven't spoken to Toshi. Not that you're not real Toshi, but I hope it's Toshi. I used to play bass in Hey Hello, because I haven't spoken to him for ages. But anyway, Toshi, I like you, whoever you are. I know you love proper horror films. I like that. Proper horror films. Have you ever watched anything that was too disturbing even for you? No. Although I did mention the scene in The Mutilator earlier on. That was pretty fucking disturbing. And yeah, there's been a few. There's a movie I want to watch again, because the first time fucked me up, called Atroz, which is I think Argentina or something. Atrocity, it's translated as. And I remember that being so disgusting. I was just like, I'm not even going to be able to take this in. It's so aversive that, it was hard to take in. But, too much for me. I can't remember a horror film being too much for me. It depends on the mood you're in, really. There's been a few horror films I haven't expected. Bone Tomahawk. I didn't know anything about Bone Tomahawk going in. And for the first 45 minutes or something, it's just a really good, well-acted, well-written cowboy movie. And I'm like, strange recommendation, whoever recommended this one to me, but I dig it. I dig slow, gentle cowboy movies as much as anyone. And then it kicks off, and then you're just not expecting that. No one's expecting that. Obviously now the film's legendary, you know what you're getting. But I had no idea that was going to happen. And that was a big one. Martyrs was a similar one, where it shocked me so much. The fact that it just flips in the middle of the movie, flips into a completely different film with a completely different agenda. And it's fucking hard going for the first half, but the second half is fucking brutal. And it was such a big shock. I don't think I took it in, how unhappy and how unpleasant it was, until I saw it a second time. And I thought, right, I'm in, come on, what you got? And I struggled with that second half. That was as hard as a movie gets for me.